That's a good question. So the central question is, how can we identify patients before they develop the disease? And that's difficult. The second issue is at the point of diagnosis, can we actually switch the disease off so that patients don't need long-term maintenance immunotherapy for the rest of their lives? And so the whole area of tolerization has arisen. There's great interest in the NMO community on the possibility of tolerizing. And in fact, I was at a meeting that was funded by the Guthrie Jackson Charitable Foundation, led by Michael Yeaman, to look at these possibilities in terms of NMO. There's some really important great data coming out about the concept of both central and peripheral checkpoint inhibitor dysfunction, and the fact that patients may be kind of already set up from an immunological perspective to develop this disease. But before we kind of move and make those jumps, we need to really think about early diagnosis. And one of the problems, as you said, is we've talked about the lack of access to drugs, but there's also a lack of access to testing. And my concern is that a lot of patients that should be tested are not being tested. So I think firstly we need to really think about how to provide access to testing so that patients can get the right diagnosis, and then figure out how we're actually going to help those patients. If they don't have access to these US FDA approved drugs, then what are the options? And there are options for patients that are cheaper than those drugs. For example, rituximab seems to work quite well, and as you know now it's off-label, it's a cheaper option, and it's a good option for a patient. But it's no good to a patient if you haven't made the diagnosis. So I think number one, we've got to help physicians, not only here but everywhere, recognize that this is a very important disease. There's a biomarker that's essentially got 100% positive predictive value. So we don't have to worry about false positive tests if you use the right assay. And then you can make that diagnosis earlier, and at least if you don't have access to these very good and phase 3 trial proven drugs,